Hey, what's up everybody? In this video, I'm going to review Night Chernabog from the Fantasia series. And guys, there's a lot to unpack for Night Chernabog, so let's jump right into it. The ability description is only two types of Tsums appear for a short time, and the drop rates for Night Chernabog is going to be slightly lower compared to Poison Apple Evil Queen, so it's going to be harder to get Night Chernabog, and likely because Night Chernabog is technically a really good coin earner if you are a really fast player. And this game demonstration that you're currently watching right now is a skill level 6 game demonstration played with the 5-4 on. So let's take a look at his stats first. To activate his ability, you're going to need to clear anywhere between 15 to 20 copies of Night Chernabog off the screen. And this number is going to depend on which skill level you have him at. The minimum score is 50 with a maximum score of 1177. So this is technically on the higher end. Night Chernabog can be one of those Tsums to be used for getting a high score, especially combining it with his ability. It's definitely a viable Tsum to get a really high score. And if you want to get him maxed out, you will need to get a total of 36 copies of him from the premium box. And it is lucky time for this month, so if you are trying to max him out, now is the time. There's going to be another opportunity at the end of the month to try to get more copies of Night Chernabog, so you still have a little bit of time. And 36 is actually on the higher end in terms of getting a Tsum maxed out, so it is going to be pretty difficult to get Night Chernabog to skill level 6. But before you go and spend all your skill tickets on Night Chernabog, you may want to stay until the end of this video and see if it's going to be worth it for you in particular. So let's take a look at the skill chart. At skill level 1, your ability time is going to last a total of 4 seconds, and you're going to need to clear a total of 20 Night Chernabogs off the screen. So the main thing here is the ability time. The ability time is probably the biggest factor for Night Chernabog. You actually want to be in ability time longer, that way you can make more chains. And if you take a look at it here, if you could get him to skill level 6, your ability time goes all the way up to 8 seconds. Essentially, you're going to get additional 0.8 seconds every single time you level up Night Chernabog, and you're going to require one less Tsum to activate his ability. And before I go any further, if you guys are enjoying this type of content where I review Tsums, do monthly leaks, or go over the selection box and pickup capsules, please consider subscribing to this channel. Your subscription is greatly appreciated. And if you guys are looking for a community of Tsum Tsum players, you might also be interested in my Discord server. On the Discord server, you can ask for help, trade hearts, discuss different characters to use, strategies, or just talk about the game in general. You can scan this QR code on the screen to join the Discord server. I will also have invite links in the video description down below as well. Okay, now back to Night Chernabog. So we're going to go over all 6 of the skill level, but let's take a look at skill level 1, 2, and 3 first. At skill level 1, you're going to have the ability time of 4 seconds and need a total of 20 copies of him to activate the ability. And that's going to drop to 19 copies at skill level 2, but you're going to have 4.8 seconds. And I didn't really notice a big difference jumping from skill level 1 to skill level 2, but I did see a significant change from skill level 2 to skill level 3. That 0.8 seconds or combining the 4.8, so you're going to get a total of 5.6 seconds at skill level 3. I was able to make an additional chain. So from 4 seconds to 4.8 seconds, not a drastic change, but feeling that additional 1.6 seconds from skill level 3 to skill level 1 was a big difference. And that's another thing too. If you actually have an older phone where the refresh rate and the frame rate is a little bit lower, meaning that the 60 seconds that you get playing the game is actually not truly 60 seconds because the phone thinks that it's actually running a little bit slower. You have more time to react to the actions that's on the screen. Unfortunately, if you have a newer phone where the refresh rate and the frame rate is really high, then you would likely need to make longer chains quicker. So that's the benefit of actually having an older phone to play a Night Chernabog, is that you'll be able to make longer chains without having to sacrifice the time. It doesn't work well for other Tsums, but for Night Chernabog's purposes, it's actually in your benefit to play on an older phone. Now, Night Chernabog is one of those Tsums where when I was playing him, I felt like I was getting really bad anxiety because I was trying to make a lot of long chains very quickly. And I got a really high heart rate as well. So if you are someone that shouldn't be getting a really fast heart rate or increasing your blood pressure, Night Chernabog is probably one you want to stay away from. Night Chernabog is only really effective if you can make really long chains really quickly and making a lot of them very fast as well. There is a strategy to it, which I'll get into a little bit later, but let's take a look at a side-by-side comparison of the abilities activated at the same time. So I'm going to play this through in full speed first, and then I'll slow it down and walk you through exactly what's happening. So with this ability, there is a couple of things that you need to know is when you clear Night Chernabog, and that's going to be the blue Tsums that you see on the screen during the ability time, it's also going to burst surrounding Tsums. And whenever you make chains of the spirits, which is the white Tsum that you see here on the screen, it's going to turn into Inferno or fire. And these fires are going to count as one chain. Sometimes you get bad luck and you don't have a Night Chernabog surrounding it. So at those situations, you just want to tap on the fire and clear those chains. But I'm going to play this through a couple more times so I can walk you through what the strategy should be for all three of these skill level first, because they are going to be a little bit different. So let's cover skill level 1 first, because I think a lot of people are going to have him as skill level 1. So during the ability time, you either want to make one really long chain or make 2 chains as quickly as possible, and then using Night Chernabog to burst those surrounding Tsums. And then what you should do after that is clear a Night Chernabog and not the spirits like you see here on the screen. By clearing another Night Chernabog, you'll at least be able to burst a surrounding Tsum. But what you can do is if you are a really fast player, you can make one really long chain of the spirits and then alternate to Night Chernabog and burst those, and then make a really long chain of the spirits again and then Night Chernabog. Ultimately, you could probably make about 4 swipes at skill level 1 with essentially 4 seconds. But yeah, again, it really comes down to how quickly you can make these chains and how quickly you could burst them. So let me turn your attention to skill level 2 now. And just like I mentioned earlier, I didn't feel a major difference between skill level 1 and skill level 2, but you do get a 0.8 seconds more. And likely that's because at skill level 2, I think I started figuring out that you should make a really long chain and then clearing Chernabog right away. But ultimately, I was only able to make 4 swipes. But because you are making a longer chain, it does take a little bit more time than making smaller chains. If you are a fast player, you could technically make smaller chains quicker and then go ahead and activate the Chernabog to burst surrounding Tsums. So you might be able to get 5 swipes in for skill level 2. Now let's take a look at skill level 3. At skill level 3, it was pretty much the same. I was able to make 4 swipes, but if you look at the chains that I made here compared to skill level 1 and 2, the spirits were a lot longer, meaning that I was able to connect either all of them or most of them, and I was able to get a really high chain. So right there, I got 39, which is a majority of the Tsums that are on the screen. And then for the second burst, I was able to get a chain of 30. So I think I could have done the second chain a little bit better. But like I mentioned, I was playing so fast, I was really anxious, and I was just trying to make a long chain as quickly as possible. So like I mentioned, it's really not great if you shouldn't have a really high heart rate or if you can't play fast. Night Chernabog is not going to be assumed that you should really use if you can't play really fast. And a couple of other general strategy when it comes to using Night Chernabog is you want to use the overcharge effect, because when you are using the overcharge effect, it decreases the amount of Tsums that's needed to activate the ability. Ultimately, you want to be in ability time as much as possible per game. And if you follow the strategy that I've laid out for you, essentially is making a really long chain of the spirit and then using Chernabog to clear it, and then continuing that process, you should be successful. However, you have to really figure out what type of player you are and how fast you play. Because if you play at different speeds compared to me or other players that play this game, your sequence might be a little bit different. If you can't play fast, then you might only be able to make 3 swipes at skill level 1. And in that case, you want to do spirits, long chains of spirits, and then secondly, you want to do Night Chernabog, and then on your third swipe, you should do Night Chernabog again because it's going to burst surrounding Tsum. So if you can't make 4 swipes at skill level 1, then you probably want to opt for only 3 swipes. Very similar to skill level 2, but you will get additional 0.8 seconds. So hopefully at skill level 2, you should be able to make 4 swipes there or make 4 chains to maximize your coin earnings. And this is going to add on as we go into the higher skill level. So let's take a look at those. At skill level 4, you're going to get an ability time of 6.4 seconds and only need 17 copies of Night Chernabog to activate the ability. At skill level 5, you're going to get a total of 7.2 seconds. So again, that's going to be additional 0.8 and only need 16 copies to activate the ability. And then finally, at the very maximum, which is skill level 6, you're going to need a total of 15 copies. So 5 less than skill level 1, and you're going to get a total of 8 seconds. So you're going to get essentially double the time compared to skill level 1. So in theory, I should be getting 8 swipes because skill level 1, I was able to get 4 swipes. So with double the time, hopefully I'm able to get 8 swipes. So keep that number in mind as when we get into doing the side-by-side comparison. We'll see if we can get actually 8 swipes at skill level 6. Now, the other 2 tips that I have for you when you're using Night Chernabog is you want to create long chains as fast as possible. And Night Chernabog is not determined by how many swipes technically, it's about how quickly you can make these chains. So technically what you can do is you can make a bunch of small swipes to connect all of the spirits and then Night Chernabog. I've seen other players play like that. But for me, my style, I think as long as possible, or making a chain that's as long as possible seems to work the best. But you could also do 2 long chains as well, or you could alternate the strategy there. I also encountered a couple of situations where I didn't have any Night Chernabogs on the screen, and I ultimately just had to tap on the flame to burst the flame, and I couldn't use Night Chernabog to essentially activate the burst. By using the Night Chernabog to burst surrounding zooms, it's also going to clear the flames off the screen, and it increases the chain that you're gonna get, as well as increasing the coins you're going to get as well. So you always want to strive to use Night Chernabog to activate the ability to burst all of the zooms. Alright, so let's take a look at the abilities active at the same time as skill level 4, 5, and 6. So like I mentioned, you could always make shorter chains and then activating the ability. So we'll take a look at skill level 4 first, and then we'll move on to 5 and 6 later. So at skill level 4, what I ended up doing at these higher skill level, I was trying to play around with the strategy. Instead of making a really long chain, in this case at skill level 4, I noticed that they were a little bit scattered. So I tried to make a really long chain initially and then another long chain before using Night Chernabog to burst the entire flames. Sometimes if they're not set up perfectly, that's essentially what you need to do. Just try to play as quickly as possible. And as you see here for skill level 4, the bubbles do get in the way. So ideally you want to minimize the amount of bubbles that are on the screen when you are activating the ability. So let's move on to skill level 5. And I feel like this ability was not necessarily the best representation of what you could do at skill level 5, but I just picked the first one that was available. But if you see here, a bubble did get in the way, or it's in the middle. So, and I also created a chain on the right hand side, which didn't allow all the zooms to fall down. So that chain of 34 was not necessarily optimized. And then as you see here, I got stuck there for about a fraction of a second, which slowed me down a little bit. Using Night Chernabog is really all about speed. So any kind of hiccups that you have there that glitches you and you get stuck is going to minimize or decrease the amount of coins that you're going to get, as well as score. So you want to minimize that as much as possible. And again, you want to burst the bubbles right after your ability time. And then finally, at skill level 6, the magic number was 8. So let's count how many swipes I was able to make at skill level 6. And again, the magic number was at least 8. So let's see what we're going to get. This setup was nice, so it was really easy to make chains. That's number 2 there. And then I did a Chernabog, so that's 3. Another tip here is you could start making a chain here as early as possible to see the Chernabogs come down. So that's 4 and 5, and this is 6. So this is the second burst that I already made. So that's already 6 swipes. And then this is number 7 and number 8. And I quickly made a small chain to activate the burst because I knew that I was already running out of time. So for this example, I was able to make 9 swipes. So the faster you play, the more chains and more coins you're going to get. And again, if you are a slower player, Night Chernabog is not the sim for you because you're not going to be able to get a lot of coins. But what was surprising to me was how effective Night Chernabog was at skill level 1. Even at skill level 1, you were able to get a decent amount of coins, or at least I was. For a skill level 1 zoom, it earned a lot of coins. So let's take a look at the results here. At skill level 1, I ended up with 2,406 coins, and this is only playing with the 5-4 on. So if you play with the 5-4 and the coin boost, I guarantee you will be able to earn a lot more coins here than I did. And with 5.5 million points, it's not too bad for skill level 1. And you take a look at skill level 2 and 3, the jump there was not too big, so it was not too exciting there for skill level 2 and 3. But once it gets to skill level 6, I was able to get into the 5,000. Now, what I will say though is I've seen some gameplays of Night Chernabog where the players were able to get into the 10,000 coin earning area. And I will say, yes, that is possible, but you have to play super fast. And playing super fast is not like it's a strategy thing. It's either you could play fast or you can't. So like how quickly can your brain react and how quickly you can make these swipes. I unfortunately am not a super fast player. I would say I'm average, I'm decent, but definitely not super fast. Definitely not going to be able to get into the 10,000 marker, but yeah, unless you could play fast, I think you should skip on Night Chernabog, or at least just get him to skill level 1 or get 1 copy and then decide later. However, I do find Night Chernabog pretty challenging, but at the same time really exciting as well. So I do think that I'm likely going to be playing Night Chernabog for a while and see if I could improve on my skill level 6 score, which I think I can. I think as I started playing Night Chernabog longer, I am able to make chains a lot quicker. However, like I mentioned earlier, it did increase my heart rate and I felt like I was very anxious. So I'm definitely not going to be using Night Chernabog right before bed. Not a great idea. So that's my review of Night Chernabog. I hope that you guys found this video helpful or at least entertaining. And if you would like to see more Tsum Tsum content just like this, please don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching.